Formula 1 2020 testing week 1 is over, ladies and gentlemen. Day 3 is complete, and after a 5-day gap, we've only got 3 days left, and that's it. That's all the teams get, that's all we get until Melbourne in March. But don't panic if you didn't manage to catch any of today's action. I'm going to try and cram it down a little bit for you, make it a little bit more concise, paint a picture of what went down on Friday testing, the last day of week 1. On the screen, you will have seen the results, and as always, as I've done for the last couple of days and will plan to do next week as well, I'm going to do a rundown of the times, the laps, the tyres, all that good stuff. Try and paint a bit of a picture, what went down in testing, try and, as best we can, I know it's only testing, but try and analyse those times, what stories really came out of the session, what narratives are going to go into the new season. So don't worry, we can learn a few things from testing, and also, as I've done for the last few days, and you seem to have really enjoyed this as an audience, I'm going to do it again today and continue this into next week. I'm going to pick out 2 teams that I've not spoke about so far in winter testing and do a bit of an analysis of their week so far. I believe there are 5 teams we have not covered. We did 3 on the first day, 2 yesterday, but there's 5 left. 2 today, and then we'll probably do a final roundup, mishmash, giant thingy-jingy on the very last day, if that kind of makes sense. So, hey, if you want to keep up to date with Formula 1 2020 testing, subscribe button down below if you want to keep up to date. I think that's it. Let's jump into the juicy bit, the times. Now, keen-eyed viewers will probably have already noticed this is a big looking table. This is much bigger than some of the other days. That's because we had 16 out of the 20 drivers on track today, which is borderline ridiculous. Most of the teams showing up with both of their drivers, splitting it between the morning and afternoon. We were missing Sergio Perez, George Russell, Charles Leclerc and Kimi Raikkonen, but apart from that, every driver out on track, which is super, super cool. I'm really getting into the mood of Formula 1 2020 at the moment. But it was a Mercedes 1-2. On the final day of week 1 of testing, Valtteri Bottas topping the timesheets, but not only did he top the timesheets for the final day, he also topped it for the week. The previous best before today was a 1:16.8. Bottas has got it down to a 1:15.7. Granted, he set his fastest lap on the C5 tyres, but when you compare that to Hamilton's best lap, a 1:16.5, also on the C5 tyres, I think the team have a little bit more in the tank than they're letting on. Of course, all the teams will be doing sandbagging, long runs, masking their pace as best they can. But an impressive final day. Another impressive day from Mercedes, grabbing the headlines once again with their revolutionary DAS system, which has already been banned for 2021. So it must have some effect if they're going to ban it. But that has been grabbing the headlines all over the shop, even on mainstream news. When I was in the car driving back from uni today, they were talking about it. So that's when you know. That's when you know Mercedes have got something quite special there on their hands. But behind the 2 Mercedes, Esteban Ocon in the Renault, who actually, I've not spoke about Renault too much over the winter, but not a bad day today. They struggled yesterday, had an issue with Ricciardo in the afternoon, they had an issue on the first day of testing, but today, a hell of a lot of laps and some good times in that Renault car. So again, only testing, but not bad from Renault today. Much smoother, I think is a better way of putting it. Lance Stroll, P4, the only racing point out on track today. Then came Danny Kvyat. AlphaTauri, every single day have held P5. Just a really pointless, fun little fact for you there. Antonio Giovinazzi, 152 laps in the Alfa Romeo. Not as much as Grosjean's 158 yesterday, it has to be said. But Gio didn't end up in the wall like Grosjean did yesterday. So I'll allow Gio that. That's a very, very impressive stint. Daniel Ricciardo, P7, in front of his former teammate Max Verstappen in P8. Gasly in the other AlphaTauri, P9. The other Red Bull, Alex Albon, P10. Blimey. just as I stop halfway through the list, it's very strange going through almost a full grid when I've kind of been getting used to doing 10 names. So anyway, Carlos Sainz, P11 for McLaren, a 118.2 on the C2 tyres. I want to talk about tyres in a moment as well, because you can see on that right-hand side of the screen a real array of different tyres used today, and I definitely think that'll be carried forward into week 2 of testing. But Sainz P11, Grosjean P12, we did the morning session for Haas, Sebastian Vettel P13 for Ferrari, Norris P14 for McLaren, Latifi the Sol Williams in P15, and Kevin Magnussen P16. And it's K-Mag, sadly enough for all Haas fans around the world, that I want to start with. Only 4 laps completed and our first proper crash of 2020. Yes, Grosjean was in the wall yesterday, but he did make it back to the garage. There was slight rear wing damage, but nothing too crazy. But today, the crane made its return. Made its triumphant return for the first time in the year. Kevin Magnussen losing it on the exit of turn 6, start of turn 7. I'm not quite too sure how they classify that corner, but the chicane at turn 6, on the exit of that corner there, lost the rear end, into the wall, crane comes out, end of Haas's running. Grosjean, who'd had a solid run in the morning session, ahead of Sebastian Vettel's best time, both on the C3 tyres. Only 48 laps completed for Grosjean, but of course we're splitting that car morning and afternoon. It wasn't a bad running, and when you consider the day before he did 158, taking that up to 200 in less than 2 days, that's not a bad tally at all. But Magnussen, a little bit disappointed. There was supposedly a puncher on the car. No official statement from the team just yet. I was hoping they might have one out or release some kind of press release before I recorded this video, but as of right now, there's nothing. But the reports are saying there was a puncher, which even that in itself, a little bit strange, only completing 4 laps and there being a puncher. So I'm intrigued about that one, and I will try my best. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm sorry, shameless plug, I will try my best if I do see anything to retweet it, get it out there, and that will be sorted. But not ideal, not ideal. I said yesterday, what a brilliant day they had. Not a great day today, but I've said it before, it's good to have these issues now, rather than at the beginning of the year. And if it's something rubbing on the car into the tyre, which certainly isn't ideal, that's perfect to find out now. But I'm sure the team behind closed doors will do analysis, understand what's gone on. Also, I know it sounds silly, they'll understand the crash structure of that car a little bit better, and I think we can all agree, I think that car will be in the wall at least once this year with both K-Mag and Grosjean in the car. Sorry, boys. But yes, I just thought probably that's the best place to start because it's our first and only real crash of testing. Laps. There's no real massive reason to look into laps today. I had a look the previous couple of days, but most teams doing similar kind of runs, and with teams splitting it morning and afternoon, you can see most of the drivers, you can tell the ones that did all day. Stroll, Giovinazzi, Vettel, all over 100 laps, so pretty straightforward. Ricciardo, who did just half of the day, 93, that's a very impressive run. But apart from that, nothing really standing out for me at least, except K-Mag's 4 laps. Nothing really standing out on that front. Nicholas Latifi, he had an issue. He slowed and came to a complete stop, thankfully, at the end of the pit lane. So his running was stalled at the end of the morning session, but it was right at the end of the morning session, so he was able to get going again in the afternoon. But the 2 teams I want to talk about today are Ferrari, which is where I want to start, and also Red Bull, because I think they've had quite a quiet winter testing so far. You know what? I think both these teams have had quite a quiet testing so far, at least in terms of their pace. And I want to pick out Ferrari first, mainly because almost out of the gates this morning, they had an issue. Sebastian Vettel's car came to a complete stop, and his running was completely delayed until the afternoon, and it was revealed that it was some kind of power unit problem. Again, ideal that it's happening now, but not ideal that it's a power unit issue. That'll be worrying not only for Ferrari, but also for Haas and Alfa Romeo, so I hope they can get that fixed, because I really am looking forward to a multi-team title fight, but maybe that's slipping away a little bit. But the main reason I want to focus on Ferrari is the times have been lackluster. I think is probably a good way of putting it. Last year, we all got very used to seeing a Ferrari at the top of the times, but we all got baited. And when push came to shove in Melbourne, they didn't really appear to have the pace we saw in testing. Granted, in Bahrain they certainly did, but then there was another drop-off, and 2019 was a very up and down season for Ferrari. And although the headlines and team press releases over the past couple of days and after today's running are quite doom and gloom, I wonder if this is, and again, as all testing is, it's tinfoil hat times, conspiracy times. But Ferrari last year, when they didn't deliver the performance expected, I think a lot of people blame the media for overhyping Ferrari, and they blame Ferrari for being too confident in themselves. They've done the opposite this year. They are really trying to play down the pace of their own car. They're really trying to say, look, Mercedes and Red Bull have the pace, and this may just be the new management style under Mattia Binotto, which we did see a big change last year in Ferrari's openness to the media, so it might be something to do with that. But on the other hand, have Ferrari learned from their mistakes last year? Because of course they're not going to come out this year and say our car's fantastic. They're not going to put on those flashy times and let everyone down again. That kind of would be silly to do that, in my opinion anyway. So I find it strange that a lot of people are already writing off Ferrari, especially when you look at the times. Yes, Sebastian Vettel is down in P13. A 1:18.3 is okay, but when you consider he's on the C3 and Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are on the C5, it's not dreadful. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about tyres today, because I think a lot of people will see the times today and think, oh my God, Mercedes 1-2, Red Bull 8th and 10th, Ferrari 13th, what's going on? But when you look at it a little bit more deeply, I mean, the Red Bull cars, both on C2 tyres, hard compound tyres, in 8th and 10th, Verstappen only 1.9 seconds off Bottas's best time. I think that's really good. I think that's some really solid pace from Red Bull. And again, when you look at the AlphaTauri on a C4 compound with Gasly, was in between those two Red Bull cars. And even Danny Kvyat, his lap time was under a second away from Lewis Hamilton's car on the C4. So there's a bit of pace differential there. So if Kvyat, if he went to the C5s, potentially he could gain, let's say, half a second of time. Red Bull all of a sudden on C2 don't look that far away. I don't know if I've made that a little bit too complicated there, but the kind of gist I'm going for is that I actually think, although Bottas and Hamilton will have the headlines that they are quickest, they have this new steering wheel, it's all looking so good, I think actually when you look at it a little bit deeper, I'm liking the look of that Red Bull. I'm not a million miles away from thinking that Ferrari's awful. I think a lot of the media are jumping on the Ferrari hate bandwagon far too quickly. It is only testing. We don't have a clue. We could show up and Williams and Racing Point are 1 and 2. Yes, it's unlikely, but really we don't know. But what I'm kind of just waffling on about and trying to get to the point is that you're going to see headlines over this weekend talking about testing. You're going to see it next weekend. The truth is, we don't know. We can go off reliability, which Ferrari, yes, today had issues. Williams finally having some issues, which in a sense is fantastic. It proves that Williams have gone forward, likewise with Haas, who had an awful reliability record last year in testing. So we can compare it to that. But I would just hang fire on all those that are kind of letting it slip and think Mercedes are going to get it. I'm not too convinced after the first week of testing. And yes, that Mercedes car looks good. And the DAS system, I think they're calling it DAS, or DAS, is probably the proper way of saying it. It's good. It's very innovative. It's really cool. I'm not too sure. I think people are overhyping is what I'm going to go for. Thank you for letting me waffle there for a good couple of minutes. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Kind of. Hey, I'll leave it there. I think that's probably best. If you're new around here and this is your first time watching a video, I apologise for that waffling session, but I hope you have enjoyed if you are new. And if you're not and you're a long-time subscriber, thank you for sticking around. 2020, I'm really looking forward to it, and it feels strange that we're halfway through testing, and Melbourne, is it 3 weeks away now? 4 weeks? Ridiculous. I really cannot believe it, but I've got the bug back. I've got the Formula 1 fever. That's cringe. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one.